Okay.
Maybe we should start it with that music. Allow me to read. You know what I'm talking
myself,
about?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then just like crying. Cut to a crying scene.
Us crying or
Or yeah, anybody.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anyone crying.
Oh, do you want to go?
Maybe us.
Maybe yes. Do you want to go first?
For introducing?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Megan Meehan, and I am a former Amazon and Microsoft, I guess, tech worker. I worked at lots of startups, and then I became a mother, and now I don't really know what to do with my life, but I have a side gig of buying rental houses and fixing them up and renting them. So maybe I could pursue that. But for now, we're just going to talk about mom stuff.
When your business has a really cool name.
Oh, sure. Bohemian Pigeon Properties.
So I feel like that shows a
I
lot
like
of creativity.
pigeon-themed businesses.
Yes. Interesting.
Hero Pigeon. Actually, those are the only two right now, but lots of different options.
There's more to come.
Lots of options.
And my name is Kate. Did you say your last name?
I think so.
You did, yeah.
You don't have to.
My
Kate
name
B.
My name is Kate B. And as you know, if you grew up in this country, there's like 7 Kates in every class. So I was Kate B. And many times in my life.
It's like Mel B, the
Spice Girl,
Yeah,
except
Mel
without
C and Mel B.
without the fame and the
Sure.
the girl group.
Yeah,
And the...
sexualization.
Oh no,
drug
that was
abuse,
there. That was all
anxiety.
there. That was all there.
That's all there.
The cons were all there. The pros were not there. I am a clinical psychologist, and I, in the last decade, spent most of that time working to get my doctorate in clinical psychology, doing research and teaching and seeing patients all over the country. And I was like, finally, I finished my degree this past year. I was feeling really relieved, but then also like, what the fuck? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, our kids are in daycare, and it's just somehow so exhausting.
All the time.
All the time. Even with that help.
I really do, like, sometimes I'm driving and I'm like, there's really no way I should be driving this car right now. I'm so tired.
I'm under the influence.
I'm so tired, of
just
lack
deprivation.
of sleep. Yeah, it really, and there's like a ton of research, and we can have an episode on this, sleep.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a lot of research that shows that lack of sleep, one night of losing like several hours of sleep, can make you feel like you've been drinking.
It's true, and I think about like just working with patients and clients over the years. Like one of the first things that we do almost with everybody is figure out how they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And try and get them on a good sleep schedule because it's like a domino effect.
It's the foundation.
When sleep goes, everything else goes. But like as a mom or parent, but I think especially as a mom, it's almost like a non-negotiable that you're just going to have these years of...
Yeah, of like sleep deprivation, basically, over years built up. And there's not a lot of support for it.
And there are a lot of women going through this exact same thing. Like friends I have in different parts of the country who are right around their like mid-30s.
Sure.
Chris just said something about a CEO of a company who had a stroke at 34.
Oh,
Did you hear about that?
No, but that's a whole other, that's really sad.
It's really, no, but it made me really think of like, wow.
Yeah.
What a time in your life.
I mean, who knows, they might have had a young kid. Who knows?
Or want to be a parent, and then you're like, well, what do I do? I'm like almost a geriatric mother.
Sure.
And I'm only
35 years old as a geriatric parent. As a geriatric mother. They will mark you as a geriatric mother at 35.
I don't know why it has to be geriatric. Like, I don't know why.
I know, they chose that word. I think they're just trying to, it's scary.
What about
it's like,
seasoned?
It's a fear tactic. Well, if you look at the chart, you're like, oh, okay, I see why you were calling it something serious. Because it's like a hockey stick.
Yes.
I don't know how accurate
good.
that is.
It doesn't look good.
It does, I mean, the numbers, it's different for everyone. We know plenty of children born to older women who are very healthy and fine. So
yeah, we also have some mom friends. Like we lived in Brooklyn when we first had the kids, and you've been in Seattle since before the kids were born,
since
right?
Before they were born.
And I feel like we both have known moms that had kids a little bit later, like in their early 40s, and there's obviously a lot that comes with that. Like
it's just different, right?
It's just different, but I think there doesn't seem to be a perfect solution. It's not like you have kids in your 40s.
Or your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. There's hits and misses with all of it.
And you kind of sacrifice something and trade something in each of those eras.
Yeah, exactly. so in your 20s, you sacrifice the hard working years in your career, I think.
To kind of climb,
Yeah,
claw
like the
your way up.
workhorse years.
Yes, the workhorse years,
that
exactly.
you need kind of to lay a good foundation for a career.
And for most people financially too, it's just untenable to have kids in their 20s and still be able to have the life at all that they maybe imagine for themselves.
Yeah, and it depends on the person. If you
don't come from money, or
if you're a person who that is really your focus.
Is being with
being
your kids 24/7 or as much
like
as
being
you can.
a mom and
Yeah,
homemaker, and some people are really into that. It's not me.
Well, I think we also don't get to interact with those people as much, just because most of the moms that we know are either our friends who also have wanted to work and do other things, or have needed to,
right,
and or moms whose kids are at daycare,
right.
So I think that kind of selects.
Yeah, there
for
are
a
lot of
different type of mindset.
Well, there's a few non-working moms, like mom.
Oh yeah.
At our daycare.
Yes, totally.
And it's just like some people are really into that, and it's great that they are. It's not for me. I couldn't do that full time. Like mom, home manager. Like the woman next door is a mom home manager, and she is killing it.
How many kids
that's
does she have?
She has 3.
Wow.
And they're in their early.
Wow.
It's like 10 years old to 15 or 16 or something like that.
Close.
Yeah,
together.
and she schedules their schedule. She manages the entire house. They're doing like a redesign and a huge landscaping project, and she's managing that. It's just like tons. I mean, this is a serious job she's doing, as a project manager, basically, and house manager. And it's a full career. Like, that's her career, is taking care of her family.
How does she do that?
I don't know. She seems great. She's like, I don't know. Some people, if their parent didn't work, maybe they feel like more open to it or something, or it feels more right to them. I don't know. Yeah.
I just want to say that in the background of Megan's amazing thoughts was a huge crash, and maybe all of our kids crying. We don't know, but we're not going to go up there. At least one.
At least one. The dads are there.
Yes, and we're lucky. That's something also I think that we appreciate, and is also hard, is that we have these amazing partners who fatherhood has been challenging in a lot of ways, but I don't think that there's sort of the same toll on their identity and their physical health and their mental health.
For sure. It's just, they seem just way more together, even for the lack of sleep. Part of it, Josh thinks, is like men just need less sleep because they're like the hunter-gatherer or hunter-defenders, and they just didn't need, like, they biologically...
They weren't like resting in the cave.
No, they were, for sure. Yeah, they didn't need to rest after birth or go pick some berries leisurely.
What a life.
No, I did hear that gathering was very difficult because you had to like have all the children and do your job. And I'm like, wow, so nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
The men like ran off in a pack together and hunted. You're like, okay, it's been 3 days.
But what has
changed? And the women would be with all the children picking berries.
But what's changed now is that we're all in our own little huts, away from each other, picking berries. Except the berries aren't really enough to like provide for your family. So you're like, okay, well.
And they have high fructose corn syrup in them.
And you can't really feed the kids those things anymore without a lot of judgment.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, but this first episode was about birth, which is the entire experience of that was birth. Yeah. And I was just thinking we could do fairly quick birth stories.
Sure. Do you want to start with
I think
the
you
oldest?
should start. Yeah.
But
we can go age
first.
by age. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oldest to youngest.
Oh Lord. It's so interesting, right? Because a lot of the people I've seen over the years are new or expectant moms or people trying to get pregnant. And so for years before I was even thinking about having kids, I would see sort of this like spectrum of experiences, including a lot of what may be described as horror stories. And so
they stick with you.
They stick with you, and I think it helped in a way because I approached having kids with a lot more just like, it's a blessing and a curse to have your eyes open to that, but I do think I didn't idealize like I'm going to have this wonderful pregnancy where I'm glowing and everyone's like throwing flowers in my hair, and
I mean we can hope.
We can hope, and there's still time. Like I'll take that anytime, but even so, even expecting how hard it was potentially going to be, I think it was so incredibly hard with my daughter. I had hyperemesis the whole time, to the point where,
What does that mean?
oh yeah, what does that mean? People often say, is that what Kate Middleton had? And yes, it's when basically you throw up your entire pregnancy. And for some women, it's a little bit less extreme. For some, it's more extreme. A lot of times people will call it morning sickness, which is
That's
just not
just-
what it is.
That's just wrong anyway.
Morning sickness,
Yeah.
no, I don't know
I
any
got more
woman.
sick later in the day.
Yeah. It's just sickness. It's just
Yeah.
it's just horrible
It was just
sickness.
named by a male doctor. And
Who didn't
it's
care what
incorrect.
time of day
Yeah,
it
it's
was
incorrect.
happening. And
Or like his wife was in the morning or something. Some
just
small
diminishing.
data pool.
it's very diminishing.
Yeah.
I had that. I threw up all day, every day. Had to take a year off of school and work. Really should have been on disability, thinking back on it. Then I had placenta previa and velamentous, which are these unrelated things to the hyperemesis that meant that I had to have a planned C-section, and my daughter was really small, and she went to the NICU, and then she got out of the NICU, and then 2 days later, New York City shut down for COVID, and that was sort of our
Lockdown.
introduction to parenting, and I'm sure we'll do many
Here's a
postpartum
kid.
episodes,
Boom,
but
lockdown.
I'll save that for another time. But yeah, that's sort of a summary.
That's a good one. What was it like holding her? Do you remember?
Oh, this is really sad, actually. So I was throwing up my entire time, like being anesthetized for the C-section, and you are like sitting up on the table, and then you're laying down, and there's the curtain, so you can't see what's happening. And they'll bring the baby around the curtain and they'll show you, but she was having a hard time breathing. And so I got to give her like one tiny little kiss on the cheek, and they took her away to the
stabilize
NICU,
her,
and I didn't see her again for like 12 hours. And I was still throwing up, and I made the nurse wheel me into the NICU.
Nice, good.
And I was like, I will see my baby. I'm
Yes,
like throwing up
great.
in this like hospital Tupperware that they give you.
They should. I mean, that's a tough one, right? Because
But then
you're like ill.
You're
and
ill.
She needs to breathe, and
But I do remember finally getting to hold
Yeah.
her and just being like, oh my god,
this little thing.
she's alive? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it was so surreal.
Oh, I bet. Well, especially since you had gone through a lot with
Yes.
her. I think she slowed her breathing, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what even happened. Chris, I should bring him on as a guest, my husband. But yeah, there was some breathing issue, and she was so small, and
She's so cute. Now she's 4.
now she's 4, and
A 4-year-old unicorn.
it's a lot of power. Yeah, so you would
Yes.
never know she was, not even 5 pounds. What about Aviva?
Oh, that's tiny.
I know, it's
Aviva was
tiny,
8
yeah.
pounds, 8 ounces, I think. So she was like, sturdy kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she,
What was your
so
pregnancy
she's my
like?
oldest daughter, yeah. And my pregnancy, so not too bad. I had terrible morning sickness, first trimester sickness. And I went on, like I did go on disability for a horrible concussion I had during that first trimester with her. And I still had my head pain from my concussion during my first and second trimester of pregnancy. And then it resolved after that, which was awesome. And I freaked out, and so I left my job. And then I did all of these projects around the house, and I honestly had a pretty straightforward pregnancy. And then my water broke, I remember, at 6 a.m. And I went with a midwife at a birth center that was just down the hill from like a major hospital with an emergency room that had a birth wing. So I felt safe enough to do it like in a non-hospital setting, not at home. I could never do that. And my water broke, but only a little bit. And so they had to send me to like an urgent care facility at a midwifery somewhere in Renton. That doesn't matter.
Renton?
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't from this area, it's not that close to where,
It's not that close.
to where she was
It's like
delivering.
a half hour. Anyway,
Oh my
they were the only ones who could take me, which was shocking. And I went in there, and they were like, okay, we're giving you this test, and if we see crystals form in the next, I was there for almost an hour, I think, waiting for these crystals. Yeah, then that means your water broke, and you should probably, and we'll put you into labor, basically. We'll induce labor for you. And I was like freaked out. I don't like hospitals. I do not really like the medical system at all. And there's many reasons for that. And so I was pretty freaked out. I was like, I do not want to be in this setting. Did not like it. I was in a big hospital. And they said, okay, no crystals. And I go, okay. And they were like, you probably just peed. And I go, I did not pee. But they were not, there were probably, everybody was like, it was just pee, it was just pee. And I go, it was not pee. I promise you it wasn't
That
pee.
is insane.
And they called back. So, and I was like, and so my midwife was like, okay, they said they didn't see crystals, so I'm going to assume that you haven't gone into labor, right? Or your water hasn't broken. And I said, okay, you know, the test showed no crystals, fine. And then they call her in the morning and say, we found crystals in the sample. They left it out and they found crystals. And then I started going into intense labor. And it was funny. And then she called me and goes, they did see crystals. And I go, yeah, no shit.
It's just so comical.
It wasn't pee.
It's so comical to any woman who's ever had their water break, which I did with my second. Like, you will never mistake that for pee.
No.
Ever.
No, and I came to find, and it was funny because the nurse who told me that, who said that it was probably just pee, said, this happened to me too. And then I gave birth like 2 days later. And I go, no, you probably had what happened to me, which they were calling like something that doesn't happen often. There's 2 sacs, there's not one.
Oh.
And the top layer, and there's a little bit of fluid in between them. And the first sac did break, but it didn't break all the way. And so a little fluid from the in between leaked out. Yeah. And then it broke when I went into intense labor. Like my body had really slowly
So you
started.
did experience that with her. You had the
Yeah.
like, intense labor start.
I did. Yeah. And I didn't, at least I wanted to try not to do any drugs. And I ended up not doing anything except like the heating pool that you sit in,
Mm-hmm.
which was great.
How long was
And
the
yeah,
actual labor for?
50 hours.
Oh,
for both.
Lord.
50.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
But it was interesting, from the water breaking to them coming out, it's 50 hours for both. That's just how my body rolls, really slow.
Wow. It's amazing
And-
you were able to sit with that and like...
Well, they don't let people go into labor for 50 hours anymore.
Yeah.
If I had been going to a hospital, they would have induced me.
And my mom was in labor for 72 hours, and then she had to have an emergency C-section
Oh, wow,
because...
that's a long time.
But that was, I'm sure, more and more common. Like you're saying before, they're like, no, we won't allow this, you know?
Yeah, no, if they think your water broke, like if they said, hey, we saw the crystals, they were basically like, we saw crystals if you want to send her back to induce her. And my midwife gave me the option to go back there or for her to deliver the baby. And I opted for her to deliver the baby. But if I had been in a hospital setting, they would have induced me or given me a C-section.
Mm.
Yeah, but probably induction would have been fine. But then I would have like forced her out early. And I'm not saying there's any issue with that. I don't think there is. It's just like, why not just
Well, it's
not
very
do that?
far from the birth experience that you were hoping to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. I was just like, let's just see how it goes, kind of. And like, if I need to pivot, I have that option.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was pretty straightforward. It was just me and Josh in the room and 2 midwives. There's like a backup midwife, which is great.
Yeah. You want to have a like
You
tag
need
team
at least 2 of
situation.
the
Yeah.
responsible people. Yeah.
It's a good ratio.
And, you know, it was COVID, but we didn't have to wear masks. They wore masks, but Josh and I didn't wear masks. And yeah, it was pretty, I mean, I pushed, I think, for 2 hours with her. Yeah.
wow.
And that was it. And then we came home like almost like a couple hours later.
You didn't have to spend the night in there.
No.
That's
I
such
didn't
a
want
nice.
to.
No, of
But
course not.
Some people do though.
Oh.
Like they like to stay in the hospital a
well,
little
maybe
longer.
if you have also a young child, like I could see more if she'd not been your first, wanting to
have a little time.
have a little time to not have a toddler on you also.
hmm Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad it like worked out. At least in
It
a lot
did.
of the ways that you
Yeah, I think it
imagined
did.
it.
Yeah,
would.
and I had a stage 1 tear. It was not really a tear though, it was like a scratch. And I had to get 2 stitches. And it was totally fine. I never felt pain from it. It just felt like a little bit raw, and it like the stitches, you know, dissolved.
Yes.
Yeah. And then do you want to talk about this?
Oh, about my
Yeah,
C-section,
yeah.
like the scar or
Yeah.
recovery or whatever it is.
I was just thinking like all of the birth, and yeah, we'll get to like psychological birth stuff in a second.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking physical.
Just the physical side.
Psychological birth stuff is very delayed, and I can't
Yes.
even. Hey,
Oh, and here's
speak of the psychological birth. Do you want to come sit for a second?
We're making a podcast. Do you
We're
want to
taking a video of ourselves talking to people about our lives.
about being mommies? You want to sit here?
We're trying to create a conversation about having kids and being mommies.
I was about to tell the story about when Rafa was born.
When?
Do you want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
So Rafa, who is your little brother, you were still 1. You were still kind of a baby. And when he was born, I didn't have any maternity leave, which is like a vacation, not a vacation, but it's time that you're supposed to get with your baby after. So I was working and working and working at the hospital I was working at New York, and trying to save up my vacation time.
Mommy, are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to the microphone, so that other moms can hear about it. Yeah? What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
but it's only my special thing.
What's
Your
your special
special
thing?
It's only my Rafa special thing, my little brother thing.
Oh, okay. So
His story.
you feel like it's special and it's just yours?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think other people might want to know a little bit about how he came into the world? No, you don't think so?
No.
Well, we could let Megan talk about when Adele was born.
No.
Honestly, Adele's was pretty easy. The only thing is, it's extremely painful. Hey,
Yeah, but I don't want
you don't want it?
You don't want it?
Should we be all done?
This could be a good. This is
Yeah.
we were just testing out. We were just testing out and talking
Okay.
about our birth stories. Yeah, this
Sweet.
is great.
I can send it to you. The link
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. For everyone listening, this has been Kate and
Yes.
Megan.
Hello.
Megan and Kate.
Bye
Featuring
bye.
Persephone.
Bye bye. Bye bye bye.
Pete
Is that a
didn't,
good time?
yeah, it was
Sure?
great.
Okay.
Pete didn't like me talking